What's up, everybody? My name is Jesse, and today I want to tell you about why I stopped selling on Amazon almost 3 years ago and why I haven't looked back since. And now these were scams that you couldn't protect yourself from, and this is the part that really sucked. Now this video is actually going to be about selling other brands' products on Amazon, so reselling of like major brands. If you want to see a second video, a part 2 to this about selling my own brands and why I stopped selling those on Amazon, leave a comment below and let me know, and I'll make that as my next video. Now your first thoughts may be that the reason why I stopped selling about 3 years ago on Amazon was because of the pandemic, and that may be a part of it, but that's actually only a very small part of it. But let's get into the reasons why I stopped selling on Amazon. So one of the first reasons is, let's say you're selling an item on Amazon, and this is an item, made by a major manufacturer, so it already has the sales. There's already a lot of people buying that item. So when you go on there and you used to list your item, you would basically add your listing to that item, and you just are adding as a seller. So say the current price that everybody is selling for, the lowest price maybe is $100. So you would come in just a little bit less, and then you would get rank. You would end up getting the sales until somebody else undercut your price. Or another thing that Amazon gave priority to was that inventory that was with them. This is called FBA. So this is actually what I used to do. You would take your inventory, you buy, hundreds or thousands of units of this item, and you'd send them into Amazon. Once Amazon received them, they would warehouse them for you, and then when a sale came through, they were responsible for pulling it off the shelf and shipping it to the customer. But what would happen is Amazon originally prioritized things and gave sales to sellers that either had FBA stock with Amazon in their warehouses, or the cheapest price. But then there came a time where Amazon started doing all kinds of weird things, and even if you had good reviews, you had your inventory in FBA, and you were the lowest price, you sometimes wouldn't be what's called the buy box, which means it's like the default thing for people to buy unless they click through the additional sellers. There's the buy box, which is where they click add to cart, and that adds your item to their cart. So the prioritization of who got the sale kind of became unclear. Even if you had all three of those things going on, and those were previously the three protocols, that you had good ratings, you had the best price, and you were shipping at FBA, you still sometimes would get beat out by somebody else who maybe wasn't doing FBA, or somebody who had really bad ratings. And it became a weird system to where it was hard to try to get sales sometimes. Another thing that was a headache and sometimes became a problem was a lot of products, a lot of manufacturers have what's called MAP, minimum advertised pricing. And what that means is that their item, say, maybe retails for $120, and they don't allow it to be sold for less than $100. If they find people selling it for less than $100, they try to connect with your distributor and get you cut off from buying that product, so you can no longer sell it, because maybe you were selling it for $90 because you were happy with a smaller profit and selling more volume of things. But manufacturers don't like that because they feel that it dilutes their product, which is understandable, but it kind of becomes a headache when you're trying to get sales and you're trying to do everything you can, but at the same time you're being squashed by the manufacturer because they don't want their item being sold for that low of a price. And then there was also some brands that didn't want their items sold on Amazon at all. It didn't matter if you were selling it for retail price, full sticker, whatever. They just didn't want their items selling on Amazon. I don't know why, and this one always seemed kind of weird to me, but they kind of felt that it diluted their brand. I'm not really sure why that makes sense, because I think most people's default is Amazon, and when you're looking to buy almost anything, you kind of default to Amazon. So that one seemed like a weird one to me, but some manufacturers would get upset when you were selling their item on Amazon. And then there was the delay in getting paid for these items. So the way things worked was, if you bought, say, 100 of this item, and then you would go to Amazon, you would enter it into their system, you'd pay for shipping and print labels, you'd slap the labels on the boxes, then send them to the nearest warehouse, which was a warehouse that Amazon selected. So it wasn't always the nearest, but it was one that was usually close to you. And then at that point, they would receive them within a couple days. But what would happen is sometimes it would take up to 2 weeks for them to actually put them in their inventory. So you'd have these items that you've already maybe paid your distributor for, or maybe you got terms with them, but your terms are only 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, these items are still sitting in the Amazon warehouse waiting to be checked in. So once your item goes through all those check-in processes at Amazon, it's actually available for somebody to buy. But then what happens is somebody comes along and buys it, and that takes a few weeks for you to then get paid after it's bought, because Amazon is waiting for if the item could be charged back. Another issue was that sometimes certain businesses have credit lines with Amazon, and Amazon expects you as the seller to front that time. So you might have to wait a month before the money is even cleared and before their credit is given. Even though Amazon was the one that gave them credit, you as the seller are the one that's sitting waiting for the money. Now, there are a few ways around that where you could pay a few extra percentage points to not have to deal with that, but you're already operating on really thin margins when you're selling on Amazon. So selling on Amazon becomes a volume game where you're making maybe only $5, $10 per item, but you're trying to sell large amounts of those items. You're not trying to sell for a $100 profit per item and maybe only sell one or two per day. You're trying to sell, a $5, $10 profit and sell as many as you can, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 a day. So when you're operating on these volumes, it creates cash flow issues because you're trying to buy more from your supplier, but you can't buy more from your supplier because you haven't gotten paid for the last ones you sold off Amazon. So once that money is freed up by Amazon and then takes another 2 or 3 days to transfer to your account, sometimes that whole process of sending items to Amazon and being sold is almost a month before I was getting the money. And if you're needing that money and you have to use that to buy the next purchase, you can't buy the next purchase until you have that money back. So it creates this thing that becomes a cash flow issue. You're selling for small profits at large quantities. And when you need to move large quantities, you need to be able to flip your cash as much as possible. The biggest and most frustrating part of selling on Amazon was getting scammed. And now these were scams that you couldn't protect yourself from. And this is the part that really sucked. Amazon, when you send an item into FBA, they make it to where you have to accept returns, and the returns are sent back to them. They don't do anything to verify that the item in the box is what was ordered, or the item in the box is in any kind of perfect condition, or that it's not missing parts. So sometimes I would end up getting an item that had been returned, and eventually Amazon sends it back to me a few weeks later after that. Once I get it, I find out that it's a totally different device and it's totally destroyed. So sometimes people were using this to, like, if they had an old one that broke, they would buy your item, take their broken one, throw it in the box, and then return it to Amazon. As soon as they send it back, Amazon gives them full credit, and then a few weeks later, you get your item back. Now you have to try to battle Amazon to try to explain to them that the item that was in the box is not what you sent. And in doing that, in that process, I had very mixed results from Amazon. For example, there was one time where a person returned an item that was a totally different item. It was a different model number, and they had put it back in the original box. In that instance, I was actually able to get my money back. But there were a lot of other times where a person will return the same item, but their old broken defective one that they had maybe had sitting around for a year, and now it finally broke, and they would use me to swap out their warranty item. In that case, Amazon's opinion was basically that you sold a Model Z and you got back a Model Z. So they didn't care that the serial numbers didn't match. One of the things I was able to do to kind of combat that and to lessen that from happening, and this actually works, was I would put a little sticker on the box that basically said, "Thank you for your purchase, and your serial number has been recorded." Now, this isn't actually totally true. This is kind of me trying to scam the scammer back. I don't know what serial number is being sent to the actual end user. Even though Amazon supposedly does scan barcodes that contain serial numbers, they don't actually relay that to you as a seller. So even though that may be logged somewhere, you don't know that that person got serial number whatever. But by putting a sticker on the box that said the serial number has been recorded, it would basically end up scaring some scammers from trying to put their old broken piece of junk in the box and returning that to you, because then the serial numbers wouldn't match and they thought maybe they might get caught. So this actually worked, as dumb as it sounds. I just used the 30 up stickers, which is the 32 a sheet stickers that Amazon uses and makes you use for creating the barcodes. I just used one of those, and I just actually put, you know, a quick little message on it about thank you for your purchase and your serial number has been recorded. And those simple stickers help drastically decrease the amount of fraud I was getting as far as returns on Amazon. And that's the reason why I stopped selling other brands' items on Amazon. If you want to see a part 2 to this video where I talk about selling my own brands, my own items on Amazon, then comment below. And don't forget to click that big red subscribe button below. It really helps me out in a huge way. Thanks for watching, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next one.